Hello everyone, this is April Michelin, and today I just wanted to talk to you about something called the Levirate Marriage. One of my favorite movies is Loving Leah by Hallmark, and it is about a girl who's Jewish, whose husband dies, and she finds herself married to her brother-in-law in this process called the Levirate Marriage. And it kind of made me curious because I'd never seen it played out like that before, so I was wondering kind of what all it was about. And what I found is that, unlike what I believed, that it came from like Leviticus or the Levites because of the way that it's spelled, lever actually means just simply brother-in-law. It's a Latin word, and that's all it means is really just brother-in-law. For the Jews in the Bible, it was lined out in Deuteronomy 25, and it says, when brothers reside together and one of them dies and has no son, the wife of the deceased shall not be married outside the family to a stranger. Her husband's brother shall go into her, taking her in marriage, and perform the duty of a husband's brother to her, and the firstborn whom she bears shall succeed the name of the deceased brother, so that his name may not be blotted out of Israel. But if the man has no desire to marry his brother's widow, then his brother's widow shall go up to the elders at the gate and say, my husband's brother will not perform a duty of the husband's brother to me. Then the elders of his town shall summon him and speak to him. And if he persists, saying, I have no desire to marry her, then his brother's wife shall go up to him in the presence of the elders, pull his sandal off his foot, spit in his face, and declare, this is what is done to the man who does not build up his brother's house. And throughout all of Israel, his family shall be known as the house of him whose sandals would be pulled off. This was a huge disgrace. So the reason that it's so important is because when a man dies with a childless widow, it creates kind of a problem because she's no longer tied to the husband's family because she has no son or heir, and she's no longer tied to her family because she was given away in marriage. So this is the reason for the Levirate marriage, because the husband's name needs to be carried on, but also to provide for the widow. Now, there are some things that it is important to know about a Levirate marriage in Judaism. First of all, the brothers must be living together. So, in other words, the father's inheritance, the inheritance that they would receive from their father, cannot have been already divided. So if one brother dies, for example, normally the other brother would get a larger inheritance and the widow will receive nothing. But with the Levirate marriage, this ensures that the widow will be taken care of and that the brother's heir will inherit. So they usually have three things in common. First of all, that they're with the husband's kinsman. Now, a non-kinsman can be used as well as a maternal nephew, but it has to be with approval of the whole kin group. They are, secondly, socially recognized as legitimate marriages. And then thirdly, and this is the part that was most important to the Israelites, is that the children are not descendants of the lever, but of the deceased brother. Ancient Israel, however, was not the only one to practice the Levirate marriage. As we'll read later in Ross, Age at Marriage and the Household, a study of Neo-Babylonian and Neo-Assyrian forms, Middle Assyrian laws also dealt with the fate of the woman whose husband disappeared or died. And what they say is if the father-in-law has other sons, then he may give her in marriage to any of them who is at least 10 years of age. If her husband has sons by another marriage, she can marry one of those boys as long as they're also just 10 years of age. Or if none of these conditions apply, her father-in-law has the option, and this just blows my mind just out of the water here, to either give her to a son less than 10 years of age, or to void the marriage and return the marriage prestations. So in other words, a 10-year-old could be the lever as long as the father, approved of it. And I just can't imagine, being a woman and being married to a 10-year-old. And in this law too, if he has no other sons, then the marriage is voided and she's free to do as she pleases. Through the Levirate marriage, or though the Levirate marriage's main purpose was thought to be to carry on the name of the deceased brother in Israel, it cannot be denied that it was also to provide for his widow. The Levirate marriage was one place where women had a say. The widow was the one who had the right to complain to the elders. She was the one who removed the sandal, and she was the one who spit in the face of her brother-in-law if he would not honor her. This literally gave her the right to disgrace him, literally from his face to his feet, and in all of Israel. While it was outlined in the book of Deuteronomy, it is evident that the Levirate marriage was practiced even earlier. In Genesis 38, Tamar goes after what is rightfully hers. When her brother-in-law refuses to perform his duty by spilling his seed on the ground, Tamar ends up tricking her father-in-law into siring her child. Her father-in-law, later realizing that she is pregnant, calls her a harlot and tries to accuse her of all these bad things. But she, in turn, shows him that it was him who sired her child. And he recognizes that even though what she did was deceitful, she was more right than he, because he had not given her his son Shelah, and he refused to do that. So what I wanted to say about this is that, this is something that has been going on for years and years. It was practiced in other cultures, obviously. There are royal families that did it, as well as, just regular families, that this is what was practiced. But it's one way that economically widows were taken care of in ancient times. And I hope that this has given you some kind of sense of anticipation for what's coming in later in the semester with the study of Tamar. She is one of my favorites, as she's featured in Really Bad Girls of the Bible, and also for Ross reading, which I will be presenting in a discussion forum later on this semester. Thank you very much, and you all have a great rest of the day.